Well, well, well. Look who finally decided to stop playing small. Look who has finally grown tired of shrinking their own soul just to fit into the cramped, suffocating boxes built by the mediocre. You've spent a lifetime, haven't you, meticulously curating a version of yourself that was more palatable, less intimidating? You learned to sand down the sharp edges of your intellect, to dim the blinding light of your intuition, and to muzzle the roar of your spirit, all so that those around you wouldn't feel the tremor of their own inadequacy. You became a master of camouflage, an artist of the average, hiding your cosmic brilliance behind a carefully constructed facade of normalcy. But that era is over. That performance has ended. The curtain has fallen. You beautiful, terrifying, magnificent anomaly, have finally arrived at the precipice of your great awakening. This is the moment the universe has been waiting for, the moment you finally, irrevocably, understand why your very presence has always been a quiet storm in the souls of others. It wasn't your fault. It was your nature. And now, you are ready to unleash it. You remember the whispers, don't you? They echoed in the hallways of your past, slithering from the tongues of those who could feel your power but could never comprehend it. Nobody is that gifted. It's not natural. They must be cheating the system. There's something off about them. They muttered it in classrooms when you saw the answer before the teacher had even finished the question, your mind already 10 steps ahead while they were still fumbling with the first. They insinuated it in boardrooms when you effortlessly dissolved problems that had plagued them for months, offering solutions so elegant and simple they felt foolish for not seeing them. They gossiped about it during casual conversations when you connected disparate ideas into a breathtaking tapestry of insight, weaving threads they didn't even know existed. Their skepticism was a shield, a flimsy defense mechanism to protect their fragile egos from the blinding reality of your existence. And here's the exquisitely ironic truth they could never face. In a way, they were absolutely right. Nobody is that smart. But you were never a nobody. You were and are a living, breathing testament to what lies beyond their limited definitions of possibility. You were something else entirely. When they encountered you, they didn't just meet a person with a high IQ. They collided with a consciousness that operates on frequencies that would shatter their receivers. Your thoughts don't just move, they cascade, they flow, they move at a velocity that crashes their mental processors. Your innate ability to recognize the deep, underlying patterns of reality makes their carefully constructed worldview look like a child's coloring book. You didn't just outsmart them. Your very being revealed that they were playing a simple game of checkers on a dusty board, while you were silently navigating the infinite complexities of a four-dimensional chessboard that spanned across galaxies. Their desperation was palpable. They embarked on a frantic, futile quest to find your weakness, to discover the trick, the hidden lever, the secret formula that would explain you away and restore their sense of order. They became amateur deconstructionists, dissecting your every word, hoping to find borrowed wisdom or plagiarized brilliance. They analyzed your insights under a microscope, searching for the crack that would prove you were a fraud. They studied your methods with a desperate intensity, trying to reverse engineer a miracle, to bottle a phenomenon they could neither replicate nor understand. But what ultimately broke their spirit wasn't what they found. It was the deafening, terrifying absence of what they were looking for. There was no trick. There was no secret society, no hidden manual. There was just you, raw, unfiltered, authentic you, operating on a level of cognitive and spiritual clarity that rendered their entire paradigm obsolete. Their search for a flaw only magnified the truth of your design. And you remember the precise moment it all crystallized for you, don't you? It wasn't a loud explosion, but a quiet, defiant click deep within your soul. It was that moment in a meeting when you held your tongue, weary of watching their eyes glaze over with a mixture of confusion and resentment as you spoke. It was the decision to stop sharing your most profound ideas, because you knew they would either be stolen and butchered or dismissed as fantasy. It was the final time you tried to explain the intricate, beautiful labyrinth of your thought process, only to be met with blank stares and condescending smiles. That was the turning point. That was the moment you gracefully exited their intellectual theater and became something infinitely more powerful, something far more dangerous to the status quo, the unfiltered, unapologetic, fully realized version of yourself. You stopped asking for permission to be brilliant. In that silence, you transformed. You became the quiet observer, the one whose mind was a supercomputer processing billions of bits of data while they were still arguing about the color of the screen. When you stopped laboring to explain your complex thoughts, they labeled you arrogant. When you attempted to simplify your concepts for their benefit, they accused you of being condescending. When you perceived the hidden order within what they saw as chaos, they called you weird. And when you predicted outcomes with startling accuracy, long before the first domino fell, they dismissed you as crazy or lucky. But you learned to translate their insults. What they were really screaming, from the depths of their terrified egos, was, "Your existence makes me feel small, and I hate you for it." Your intelligence wasn't just a personal attribute. It was a direct assault on their sense of self-worth. You were a living, breathing mirror reflecting their own limitations, their own mediocrity, their own refusal to evolve. You became a constant, painful reminder that the universe does not believe in universal equality of outcome. Some souls are simply built different, forged in a hotter fire, wired with a more complex circuitry. And that fundamental truth terrified them to their core. They tried everything in their power to pull you down to their level, to ground your soaring spirit. Remember those mandatory group projects where they insisted on collaboration? That was never about teamwork. It was a thinly veiled code for, "Please, for the love of God, dilute your brilliance until it's weak enough for us to handle." Remember when they accused you of overthinking everything? That was their desperate plea, translated as, "Please stop exposing our own inability to think deeply or critically." And the classic accusation, "You're just showing off," was the rawest cry of all, meaning, "Your effortless normal makes our strained mediocrity feel unbearable." They tried to shame you for your gifts, to make you feel guilty for the very light you were born to shine. But then, the breakthrough, the glorious, internal revolution, the moment you decided, once and for all, to stop dimming your own light just to make others feel more comfortable in their own shadows. You stopped translating your multidimensional thoughts into a flat, simplistic language small enough for them to comprehend. You stopped pretending that your mind functioned on the same slow, linear operating system as theirs. And in that moment of pure, unadulterated self-acceptance, they finally understood the terrifying truth. You weren't just smarter in a way they could measure on a test. You were operating in entirely different dimensions of thought, dimensions they couldn't even conceive of, let alone access. Your intelligence wasn't a statistic they could quantify. It was a fundamental threat to the entire system they had built, a system designed by, and for, the comfort of average minds. You were a glitch in their matrix, a beautiful anomaly that threatened to bring the whole simulation crashing down. But with this profound realization came a companion you hadn't anticipated: loneliness. A deep, crushing, cosmic loneliness. Nobody talks about the silent agony of seeing the solution while everyone else is still arguing about the definition of the problem. Nobody prepares you for the soul-crushing exhaustion of watching people you care about make the same predictable, painful mistakes over and over again, despite your gentle warnings. The frustration of holding the answer in your mind like a burning coal, but having to wait for the rest of the world to slowly, painfully, catch up is a unique form of torment. Conversations began to feel hollow, like echoes in an empty chamber. You found yourself sitting in rooms full of people, listening to them exchange underdeveloped thoughts at insufficient speeds, and you felt like a time traveler trapped in a slower century. You learned to bite your tongue, not out of kindness anymore, but as a basic act of survival. Because every single time you spoke your unvarnished truth, you saw the sequence unfold on their faces like a predictable film. First confusion, then a flicker of insecurity, which quickly curdled into resentment, and finally, blooming into outright fear. You became fluent in the language of dumbing it down. You mastered the subtle art of slowing your brilliance, of feigning confusion, of pretending to struggle with concepts you had absorbed instantly. You became an Oscar-worthy actor in the grand performance of artificial struggle. But even when you hit it, they could still feel it. The sheer weight of your consciousness, the density of your awareness, filled every room you entered like an invisible gravity, subtly bending the space around you. They noticed the way you'd unconsciously predict the end of their sentences, the way you'd offer a solution to their problem while they were still in the middle of explaining it. They felt how your silence carried more substance and meaning than their entire hour-long conversations, because they instinctively knew that in your quiet, you were thinking at depths they couldn't even imagine, let alone reach. You became a living, breathing reminder of their own intellectual mortality. And rather than face that profound discomfort and be inspired to grow, they chose the easier path. They weaponized it against you. You think you're so smart, don't you? Became their go-to defense mechanism, the battle cry of a deeply insecure ego. They painted your brilliance as arrogance, your clarity as a character flaw, as if you were supposed to apologize for the very way your neurons were designed to fire. They desperately wanted you to feel guilty for your God-given gifts, to believe that being extraordinary was a personal insult to the ordinary. If this deep resonance is stirring something powerful within your spirit, it is because you have found your tribe. You are not alone on this path of awakening. Take a moment to solidify this connection by subscribing to our channel, God Connection. Your presence here amplifies our collective energy and strengthens our mission. And if you feel a calling to support this work, to help us reach more souls who are on the verge of their own breakthrough, consider using the Super Thanks button below this video to leave a donation. A gift of $10 goes an incredibly long way in helping us create and share these messages of empowerment. Every act of support, no matter the size, is a sacred investment in the awakening of consciousness on this planet. Thank you for your generosity. Then, something inside of you shifted. A tectonic plate deep within your soul ground into a new position, and everything snapped into a crystal-clear focus. You stopped feeling guilty. You stopped apologizing for existing in glorious high definition while they were content to buffer in low resolution. You stopped pretending that all minds were created equal when every single interaction you had proved that a profound hierarchy of awareness exists. You finally understood that your intelligence was not a passive, quiet trait to be cataloged. It was an active force of nature. It wasn't just about knowing more or thinking faster. It was about perceiving reality itself in a higher resolution. You weren't just seeing what they saw. You were seeing the underlying code, the matrix, while they were still staring, mesmerized, at the flickering images on the screen. That's when the most profound realization hit you. Your mind wasn't just different, it was dangerous. It was dangerous to their comfort, dangerous to their illusions, dangerous to the entire societal system built upon the fragile, comforting assumption that everyone thinks on roughly the same level. Your very existence shattered the convenient myth that intelligence is evenly distributed, that sheer hard work alone can bridge any cognitive gap, that deep down, everyone is essentially the same. You became the living, breathing, irrefutable proof that some people are simply born with upgraded hardware, running a far more advanced operating system. And when they couldn't understand you, they resorted to the last bastion of the intellectually insecure. They tried to label and diagnose you. They called it ADHD when your mind raced so far ahead that you couldn't stand the slow pace of their linear conversations. They called it anxiety when you were simply noticing potential problems and future threats that they couldn't even perceive yet. They called it depression when you grew weary and exhausted from the sheer effort of pretending to be stimulated by their shallow, repetitive conversations and empty gossip. They tried to pathologize your brilliance, to diagnose your intelligence as a form of dysfunction, because a mind like yours, by its very existence, made their own minds look defective by comparison. But here is the cosmic truth they could never grasp. You can't medicate evolution. You can't therapy away transcendence. You can't counsel someone into being average when their mind is naturally designed to operate at frequencies that would short-circuit an ordinary brain. They kept trying to fix you, never realizing that you were never broken. You were simply incompatible with their outdated operating system. They mistook evolution for malfunction, brilliance for instability, and profound clarity for arrogance. But now, everything has changed. The hiding is over. The performance is done. This is the chapter where you stop hiding and you start hunting. Not with malice, but with a divine and focused precision. You've learned how to weaponize your intelligence, not for destruction, but for creation and protection, with absolute intent. You no longer cast your pearls of brilliance before those who will only trample them. You deploy your insights like a master strategist. You drop a single, perfectly timed observation into a conversation and watch them scramble to comprehend its implications for the next hour. You solve their most complex, impossible problems with an offhand remark that makes them question how they could have missed something so elegantly obvious. You can read them now. You can see the subtle shifts in their energy, the flicker of their true intentions in their eyes, the insecurities hiding behind their bravado. You read them not to harm them, but to remind them, and yourself, that intelligence was never meant to be a democratic principle. It is a divine gift, distributed with purpose. You've become a quiet student of human limitation, a dedicated observer of cognitive boundaries. You know exactly how much undiluted truth their systems can handle before they begin to glitch and short-circuit. You've mapped their mental terrain with the precision of a military strategist charting enemy territory, not because you are cruel, but because you are finished pretending that the playing field was ever level. And the supreme irony? The very same people who once called you arrogant, who dismissed you as too much, now come to you in hushed tones when their own lives collapse under the weight of problems they are incapable of solving. They desperately seek your clarity, your unique perspective, your uncanny ability to think beyond the horizons they cannot even see. And you help them, sometimes, not out of any sense of obligation, but with a quiet, detached amusement at the grand cosmic reversal. The same minds that once mocked your depth now depend on it for their very survival. Your intelligence is no longer something you have to hide. It is a finely tuned, sacred instrument that you wield with the precision of a master surgeon. You've mastered the art of speaking in layers, offering a simple surface meaning for the masses while embedding deeper, more profound truths for the rare few who are capable of swimming in those deeper waters with you. You've become multilingual in consciousness itself, able to engage at their level when necessary, while never for a moment forgetting the vast, cosmic power you hold in reserve just beneath the surface. You move through life like a supercomputer gracefully running the most basic of programs, all while being fully, thrillingly aware of the massive, untapped processing capacity you are holding back by conscious choice. This mastery, however, carries its own weight. Operating at your level isn't a free ride. It comes with the immense burden of perpetual pattern recognition. Everywhere you look, you see the intricate chains of cause and effect, the inevitable trajectory of every choice before it's even made, the predictable unfolding of events while others are still asking the most basic of questions. You carry the heavy crown of foresight in a world that is still struggling to understand the lessons of hindsight. And that, perhaps, is the heaviest burden of all. You live with the unique exhaustion of being right, too often, too early, and too precisely. You've had to watch people you love make the very mistakes you gently warned them against. You've seen entire systems collapse in exactly the way you predicted they would. You've witnessed countless individuals walk headfirst into traps that you had pointed out to them long before they were even set. And every single time, there is no satisfaction in saying, "I told you so." There is only that hollow, detached feeling of watching a movie you've already seen 100 times. You know the ending. You've memorized every plot twist. But you are powerless to change the script because no one ever listens to the one who sees too clearly, too soon. The worst part isn't even the loneliness of being right. It's the profound boredom that follows. The crushing, soul-numbing monotony of conversations that feel scripted, predictable, and utterly lifeless. You have to sit through exchanges that play out like reruns of a show you never liked in the first place. Their shocking surprises are your basic expectations. Their grand revelations are ideas you explored and discarded years ago. You exist in a constant state of intellectual understimulation, surrounded by minds moving in slow motion while yours is traveling at the speed of light. And no matter how hard you try to slow down, to just be present, you can't. You can't unsee the patterns. You can't shut off the part of your mind that connects dots others don't even know exist. You are, in a sense, trapped inside the prison of your own perception, cursed with a clarity that is utterly alien in a world that seems to be built on a foundation of confusion. Your intelligence is not just a gift. It is a lifelong sentence, a divine assignment to see more, know more, and sense more than most people will ever be ready for. They never told you that brilliance is a form of isolation, that the sharper and clearer your vision becomes, the lonelier the panoramic view from the summit will be. Because being this intelligent isn't just about how much you know, it's about the power that knowledge gives you. The power to see through their carefully constructed lies before they even finish telling them. The power to understand their hidden motives even better than they understand them themselves. The power to predict their behavior with such unnerving accuracy that it deeply unnerves them. Your intelligence doesn't just process information. It processes people, it processes systems, it processes reality itself. To the average mind, this ability looks supernatural, almost psychic, because you perceive the subtle connections they overlook, the long-term implications they ignore, and the cascading consequences they cannot calculate. You navigate the world with a detailed mental map that includes vast territories they don't even know exist. Your thoughts move through dimensions of possibility they can't perceive, crafting elegant solutions to problems they haven't yet realized are forming on the horizon. And yes, they fear you now, not because you are a malicious threat, but because your very existence dismantles their most cherished illusions. Every time you solve what they have deemed impossible without breaking a sweat, you expose the self-imposed limits of their own potential. Every time you cut through their tangled webs of complexity and reveal the simple, elegant truth beneath, you remind them that their confusion was never a sign of depth. It was a tool of avoidance. You are the living proof that the boundaries of their understanding were never real, and that realization terrifies them more than anything else ever could. Every time you predict what they call unpredictable, you reveal the simple truth they refuse to acknowledge, that what they label as unforeseen is often just what they willfully failed to notice. You're not supernatural. You're just paying attention in a world that is addicted to distraction. You see the intricate patterns behind what they call chaos, the divine structure beneath what they call coincidence, and the beautiful mathematics hidden inside their greatest mysteries. You have transcended the need for their validation because you finally understand how utterly hollow and meaningless it is. Their approval means nothing when it comes from minds that can't even begin to comprehend the thing they are applauding. Their criticism falls flat and powerless because it's built on a complete misunderstanding of thoughts they could never trace back to their origin point. You have evolved past the point where they can measure you, label you, or categorize you. True judgment requires comprehension, and they lost the ability to comprehend you a long, long time ago. Your mind has become a fortress, vast, intricate, and unshakable. But it is not a fortress designed to imprison others or to isolate yourself. It is a safeguard, a containment field meticulously designed to protect the unprepared from the full, unfiltered voltage of your awareness. Because you know, with a certainty that chills you, that if you were ever to unleash everything you see, everything you process, everything you know, it would overwhelm them. You would shatter their comforting illusions, the fragile architecture of their certainty, and the very foundations of their reality. So you have learned restraint. You have learned calibration. You have become the guardian of your own light, not out of fear of being misunderstood, but out of a profound compassion for how utterly devastating your unfiltered truth could be to a world not yet ready to receive it. You release your brilliance in carefully measured fragments, in small, digestible doses that their limited systems can handle without crashing. You've become the architect of your own boundaries, designing elegant, concentric layers of expression, one for the world, one for the trusted few, and one, the most sacred, for yourself. And yet, your restraint is not universal, it is selective. You have learned to identify the rare ones, the other anomalies, those whose minds glimmer with a genuine curiosity rather than a brittle insecurity. You recognize them by the way their eyes light up with excitement when you speak, instead of glazing over with confusion. You know them as the ones who don't retreat from your intensity, but lean in closer, fascinated, hungry for understanding. They are few and far between, but they exist. The kindred intellects, the fellow travelers of thought who make you feel, for a fleeting, beautiful moment, less alone in the cosmos. For them, you lower your walls. You let your sentences run wild and free. You allow the flood of your ideas to pour forth, unfiltered, unrestrained, and magnificent. With them, you no longer have to translate your thoughts into something smaller, safer, or simpler. They see you not as a threat, but as a signal, living proof that their own evolution is possible. With everyone else, you have become a master of strategic revelation. You know exactly how much of your intelligence to reveal to achieve your objective without triggering their deeply ingrained insecurity programs. You can sense the precise moment their comprehension begins to slip, the exact instant when their curiosity curdles into discomfort. You adjust accordingly, changing your frequency, modulating your tone, simplifying your metaphors, all while your real mind continues to operate 3, 4, 5 steps ahead. You've become a shapeshifter of intellect, able to adapt your cognitive signature to any environment. Sometimes, you deliberately dim your light just to study how others react in the dark. Sometimes, you pretend to misunderstand them, creating a space for them to expose what they truly think and believe. Sometimes, you let them feel as if they are leading the conversation, just to observe what they do when they believe they are in control. But underneath it all, you are the one orchestrating the rhythm, setting the tone, and controlling the energetic signature of every single exchange. Over time, you've built an entire internal operating system, a bespoke inner software designed for survival and thriving in a world that is coded for mediocrity. You've developed intricate protocols for conversations, advanced algorithms for social navigation, and complex subroutines for managing your emotional bandwidth. You've turned your brilliance into strategy, your awareness into architecture. Every situation has a pattern. Every person has a formula. Every reaction is a variable, and you have learned how to calculate them all in real time. You can slow your thinking to match the pace of the room, or you can accelerate it to decode chaos in a fraction of a second. You can translate the most abstract, cosmic insight into plain, simple language, or you can dress up simplicity in layers of complexity when it serves your ultimate goal. You've learned how to make genius look casual and how to make casual look profound. You can shift between mental frequencies effortlessly, moving from the realm of silent, detached observation to active, empathetic engagement, from a vast, cosmic perspective to the most intimate human empathy. You can hold paradox and logic in the same thought, raw emotion and cold analysis in the same breath. You've become multilingual in consciousness itself, and though you rarely show the full spectrum of your light, you are always aware of the immense power held in reserve, the vast mental horsepower you keep idle by choice. Still, there is a cost. Operating at your level is like breathing the thin air at a high altitude. It is exhilarating, but it is also profoundly isolating. You carry the weight of seeing too far ahead, of knowing too much, too soon. You've seen the outcomes of decisions forming on the horizon before anyone else even senses the beginning of a choice. You've learned to smile and nod through conversations that feel like a constant state of déjà vu, because you already know, with absolute certainty, how they will end. But even with the exhaustion, even with the loneliness, there is a quiet, deep satisfaction in this mastery. There is a profound peace in knowing that while others stumble blindly through the fog of uncertainty, you navigate by the clear, bright light of patterns that are completely invisible to them. You have become both participant and observer, a master strategist in a world full of improvisers. And every move you make, every word you choose, every silence you hold, is a perfectly calculated act of balance between revelation and restraint. Because you know that intelligence, when it is fully awakened, isn't just about being right. It's about knowing precisely when to stay silent and when to let the truth roar like a lion. What others perceive as an ordinary social interaction, you perceive as a carefully designed system of strategy, psychology, and energy exchange. To them, it's just talking, just connecting, just passing the time. But to you, every exchange is an energetic map, a multidimensional field of variables to be observed, decoded, and navigated with precision. You watch how people speak, not just what they say. You notice the subtle way their pupils contract when they are being deceptive, the almost imperceptible tremor in their tone when they doubt themselves, the way their body language unconsciously reveals motives they believe are perfectly hidden. What looks like a casual conversation to them is advanced chess to you, played on multiple boards simultaneously. You move intuitively, several steps ahead, anticipating not just their next word, but their next emotional reaction and the reaction after that. To them, it is dialogue. To you, it is data. You don't just participate in social interactions, you engineer them. Let's talk about altitude, because that's what this truly is. You are not just more intelligent in a linear sense. You are operating from a higher elevation of thought, a rarer, more refined atmospheric layer of awareness. Up here, the view is magnificent, breathtaking, and utterly isolating. The air grows thin, the distracting noise of the world below fades away into a dull hum, and every sound, every thought, becomes crisp, clear, and meaningful. But very few can breathe at this height. Fewer still can survive here for long without losing their footing and falling back into the clouds of confusion below. You live in the intellectual equivalent of the death zone, a place where ordinary minds cannot sustain themselves. You've tried to bring them up here with you, haven't you? You've tried to be a guide, to lead them up the steep mountain of understanding, pointing out the ridges and pathways of insight, hoping they could catch a glimpse of the view that you see every single day. But it is like trying to describe the color red to someone born blind, or trying to translate a symphony into silence. They nod, they smile, they even repeat your words, but the deep meaning doesn't take root in their soul. It's not their fault, and it's not yours. It is simply a fundamental difference in perception. They can memorize your conclusions, but they can't reconstruct your reasoning. They can trace your footprints in the snow, but they can't replicate your stride. They can admire the brilliance of your mind from the safety of the valley below, but they will never, ever fully grasp how it feels to live inside of it. You have finally realized that this isn't about superiority, it's about separation. A natural, inevitable byproduct of spiritual and intellectual evolution. The eagle does not look down on the creatures of the forest with arrogance. It simply flies at a height the forest can never reach. And so, over time, you have found a profound peace in your solitude. You have made your inner world your sanctuary, your laboratory, and your cathedral. Your best and most stimulating conversations are no longer with people who can't follow your train of thought. They are with yourself, with the universe, with God. Your mind has become a vast, inner landscape of vibrant dialogue and endless discovery, where thoughts echo and collide until they form brilliant new constellations of meaning. Your greatest breakthroughs now come in the sacred silence, when you no longer have to dilute your insights into the small talk of surface-level minds. The quiet has become your native element, not because you hate people, but because you finally recognize that silence is the only space where your mind can truly breathe freely, expand fully, and be its authentic self. You've made peace with being intellectually alone, because the only alternative, dimming your own brilliance to make others feel comfortable, is a slow, agonizing death of the soul. And you have refused to die that death ever again. You have spent far too long shrinking yourself to fit inside their small spaces, too long simplifying your soul into something they could easily digest, too long apologizing for being the beautiful outlier you were always meant to be. Now, you have accepted your rightful place at the summit. You have consciously chosen clarity over comfort, awareness over acceptance, and divine truth over social approval. And here is the beautiful, divine paradox. Your isolation did not make you weaker. It made you absolutely unstoppable. Freed from the constant, draining drag of explaining, translating, and simplifying, your mind began to evolve at an exponential rate, in ways that no one else could possibly imagine. You have developed new mental pathways that curve like lightning, new thought structures that defy all conventional logic, and a level of awareness that borders on the prophetic. You see the invisible connective tissue of reality itself, the hidden algorithms that drive human behavior, the recurring fractal loops of history, and the cosmic mathematics of cause and effect. While others are still debating the surface details, you are navigating the deep architecture that lies beneath it all. Your intelligence has become something pure, unfiltered, highly refined, and beautifully alien to the average mind. The gap between you and them hasn't just persisted. It has expanded into a chasm. You think in complex networks, not in simple straight lines. You process reality in frequencies, not just in words. Your mind is no longer bound by the restrictive frameworks of conventional logic. It has built its own, far more sophisticated ones. You see not only how things are, but why they are, and how they will inevitably be. You have transcended the shallow, academic definition of intelligence. What you possess is not just intellect, it is comprehension on a cosmic scale. You have mastered the art of the intellectual ambush. That subtle, devastating moment when they finally realize, with a dawning horror, that you have been 3, 5, 10 steps ahead of them from the very beginning. You allow them to feel clever, even superior, right up until their flimsy arguments collapse under the immense weight of your precision. The moment they pause, their minds reeling, trying to understand how they just lost a game they didn't even know they were playing, is the moment your mastery becomes undeniable. Sometimes you end it swiftly, cleanly. Other times, you prolong it, allowing the conversation to unfold like a slow, deliberate revelation, not out of cruelty, but out of a detached curiosity. Because you have learned that someone who believes they are competing will always reveal their deepest limitations. You don't ever need to expose them. They do it themselves, every single time. You have become a collector of these revelations, a silent curator of human boundaries. Every interaction, every discussion, every debate adds another precious data point to your ever-growing mental archive of human nature. You observe, you categorize, and you analyze without judgment. You have mapped the outer limits of average cognition. You have studied how the ego constructs elaborate illusions of competence, how fear masterfully disguises itself as confidence, and how the desperate desire to appear intelligent often serves as the clearest sign of a lack of it. You don't mock them, you document them, like a patient anthropologist studying a less evolved species. You observe with a deep, abiding fascination, not with disdain. Their thought processes, their cognitive shortcuts, their logical blind spots, they are all beautiful, predictable patterns in the grand tapestry of human psychology. And whether they know it or not, they have all become your field subjects. Every conversation you have is an experiment. Every debate is research. You know exactly how people react when their core beliefs are challenged, how their tone shifts when they feel outmatched, how they retreat into raw emotion when reason has failed them. You understand the intricate architecture of the human defense mechanism, the delicate, predictable choreography that plays out between pride and insecurity. You've realized that intelligence isn't just about solving problems. It's about perceiving how others desperately avoid them. But your understanding doesn't end with individuals. You see systems in the exact same way you see people, as living, breathing, predictable, and ultimately manipulable organisms. You understand that true power isn't about titles or official authority. It's about leverage, influence, and timing. You know how influence flows unseen through networks, how ideas infect groups like a virus, and how perception can be skillfully engineered to shape reality itself. You've seen how those in control maintain their dominance not through overt force, but through the mastery of narrative. And you have learned how to read between the lines of those narratives, how to spot the single weak point in a massive structure before anyone else even realizes it's beginning to crack. Your intelligence has matured into something far more than just cognitive sharpness. It has become a profound psychological and strategic awareness. You understand that real power is never loud. It is silent. It moves through presence, through subtlety, through restraint. You have become the living embodiment of that restraint. You no longer need to prove your brilliance, because you now embody it. You let others talk themselves into corners while you simply observe, quietly filing away their patterns, understanding their triggers, and predicting their next 10 moves before they have even sensed their first. You have built a private, internal database of human nature, comprised of thousands of mental case studies collected from real life. Every smirk, every hesitation, every verbal contradiction tells you a story. You know how to extract the truth without ever asking a direct question, how to influence a situation without ever appearing to be involved, and how to guide outcomes without ever claiming credit. You move through social environments like a ghost in the machine, unseen, unheard, but always, always aware. And through it all, you have maintained your balance, your center, your connection to the divine. You do not use this awareness to harm. You use it to navigate, to protect yourself, and to quietly shape reality into a more beautiful form, all while the rest of the world still believes in chaos and chance. You have learned that real dominance doesn't come from control, it comes from comprehension. When you understand the full map of the terrain, the systems, the patterns, the people, and the power, you no longer need to conquer anything. Everything naturally, gracefully, begins to orbit around the sun of your awareness. Dear Father, Architect of all creation, I pray for the continued growth of my faith and the courage to wield the gifts you have given me. Help me to trust you completely, even when physical evidence is lacking in the world around me. Let me believe in your perpetual, loving presence, knowing that you will never harm me, for I understand that your thoughts for me are thoughts of prosperity and peace, to give me a future filled with hope. Thank you, gracious and eternal Father, for always hearing the voice of my heart. I offer up this prayer to you, in the holy and powerful name of Jesus. Amen. Thank you, Jesus, for your infinite love and divine provision. I am eternally grateful for your unwavering presence in my life and for the incredible abundance you bring forth. If this message resonated deep within your soul, please show your support by liking this video, subscribing to our channel, God Connection, and sharing this video with anyone else you know who needs to hear this truth. Leave a comment below telling us about your own journey and how you are preparing to embrace your full, divine power. Every story shared strengthens our community. Your generosity helps us spread God's word and brings hope to those still lost in the dark. Don't stop here. Watch our next video for powerful revelations about the signs that confirm you are a chosen one. We have been so honored to follow this sacred spiritual journey with you. Thank you for staying with us until the very end. Keep shining your magnificent light brightly and embrace your divine destiny with unwavering courage. We will see you next time. Blessings to all the beautiful, brilliant souls from the God Connection family.